Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Now, before we continue with our next speakers, I want to make a little announcement. Since you all, and I think everybody working in education, is so interested in AI, the application of AI in education, I want to announce that the Innovation and Research Department is going to carry out a project related to the application of AI in education. This is going to be carried out during the first term of next year. And this third term, the announcements are going to be made. So we're going to have a campaign through Facebook, email, etc., inviting you to register for this project. So I just wanted you to know and to be attentive, okay, and just to make sure you don't miss this opportunity. Oh, and it's free, yes, exactly. Okay, so now moving on. Now we will turn our attention to the next workshop entitled Boosting Oral Skills with Intercultural Connections, Key Strategies from the Building Intercultural Bridges Virtual Exchange Project. Yes, that's a mouthful, yes, a big name. Let me repeat it, just in case you didn't get it. Okay, so key strategies from the Building Intercultural Bridges Virtual Exchange Project. Delivered, and this presentation is going to be delivered by Master Jonathan Elizondo Mejías and Master Clare Goodman Goodchild. Let me give you a little background of these two speakers. Jonathan Elizondo Mejías has a master's degree in teaching English as a foreign language and a bachelor's in primary school, teaching with emphasis in English from the University of Costa Rica. Also a bachelor's and licentiate, I always have trouble with that word, licentiate in English teaching from Universidad Americana. He has worked as an English teacher both in the public and private sectors at primary school, high school, and university. His national and international presentations have focused on the integration of information and communication technologies, ICT, applied to the enhancement of pedagogical practices and English language skills, and the implementation of collaborative strategies to the process of distance education. Master Elizondo has presented at national congresses and conferences on English teaching and at international congresses and webinars in Venezuela, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Panama, and Argentina. He is currently a teacher trainer at the Centro de Capacitación en Educación a Distancia de la UNED, Costa Rica. That was a lot, right? A lot of things. Wow. Congratulations. Good for you. Excellent. Okay. Master Clare Goodman is a professor at the Universidad Estatal a Distancia and Universidad Nacional. She has her bachelor's, licentiate, and master's degree in teaching English as a foreign language. She worked at Centro Cultural Costarricense Norteamericano for 13 years, where she was a teacher trainer, and operations coordinator. She has also taught English at ULatina, Universidad de La Salle, UTN, and as an on-site teacher for different international companies. She has been teaching for over 25 years. Now, their workshop focuses on how to create authentic, meaningful speaking tasks for the EFL classroom. The presenters will expose the achieved objectives of the ongoing project Building Intercultural Bridges of the Research and Innovation Department. They will share ideas on how students can connect with other students from around the world and give teachers tips on how to incorporate this project into their own classes, making learning more significant. So, without further ado, let's give them a warm welcome.
Okay, well, we're going to start. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I'm just going to click here, if I can move or click. Anyway, before we get started, well, we were already introduced, so I'm not going to introduce ourselves again. What I would like to ask you, first of all, obviously by my name, you see a Canadian flag. So I want you to take a few minutes, or maybe a minute, with your partner or somebody that is sitting next to you, to what do you know about Canada? What do you know? Huh? Okay, so what do you know about Canada? Yes. So go ahead, whatever you know. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, maybe if somebody would like to raise their hand. Yes, we are a country. Maybe somebody with the mic. There is I don't know. Somebody's hand is up at the moment, so maybe Tobias, go ahead. What do you know about Canada?
It's working? Mm-hmm. Okay, hello. I am Maria Fernanda. Mm-hmm. What I know about Canada, yeah. Well, we were talking about Justin Bieber. I don't know. Justin Bieber is from Canada. I'm not a big fan. And I work from a bank, Capital One.
Okay.
Canada. I know that there are a lot of lakes. And it's cold, and it's a very good country that we can explore different, like, nature.
Okay.
And, well, people that came from Canada, they are very good speakers. So I really, really appreciate this opportunity to talk about Canada.
Okay, yes, a lot of nature, a lot of lakes, of course. Yes, very important. Yes, and it is cold. Most of the time, but yes.
Well, in my case, I was blessed to be there once back in 2013.
Okay.
And I realized that you can listen to people from all over the world because there are a lot of refugees that Canada is helping, giving them a hand because their countries are in war. I remember I had the experience to meet some children, well, actually adolescents, that were there. And the teacher had on the top of their desks a toy. So we asked them, why do you have a toy there for them if they are all teenagers? And she told us, this is the first time they have a toy in their lives.
Yes.
So it was really touching, and I have that very clear in my mind. And I say always that to my students. You have everything here in Costa Rica, and there are many people that don't have the chance even to study. So enjoy the moment, study, and learn as much as you can.
Okay. Okay, maybe one other person, or if anybody has anything else.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I know that Canada gave us Ryan Reynolds and Ryan Gosling. That's a good one.
Yeah, a lot of good actors
Yeah.
from Canada and comedians.
And
Yes.
it's cold, and people, sometimes I have heard this kind of jokes that people there, like nothing happened there because it's a very safe place, a very safe country, although I don't know, right? But that's what they say.
Well, it is pretty safe, but I think like anywhere around the world, obviously you have to be careful, right? I think wherever you are. Well, yes, those are all images we have, right, when we think of Canada. Usually when starting this particular project, I ask my students, well, what do you know about Canada? Because you're going to be working with students from Canada. So some of them, obviously, they say those things, lakes, mountains, all those things. Oh, and everybody is bilingual. No. So that's the myth number one, right? So I usually tell them, no, it is not a fully bilingual country. Obviously, we learn. I speak more Spanish, I think, than French at the moment. But yes, obviously, there are many people who only speak French. And English is their second language, not their first language. So they're learning English as a second language. And also, some of them that we worked with this project are learning Spanish. So they're already have 3 languages. So their native language, most of them, especially if they come from Quebec, Francophones, they are only French speakers. So that's they're learning. So sometimes some students look very shocked. Oh, I thought everybody spoke English in Canada. No. So obviously that's a good way to kind of teach them a little bit about Canada, a little bit about maybe some of the stereotypes we have about different cultures and how we can kind of, like I said, I think what it says here is kind of bridging the gap with different cultures and getting to know people from all around the world. Okay, we're going to take a look at some of the goals of this session. It's this one. Okay, I haven't used one of these before. Oh, okay. Okay, first of all, we're going to inform you about the ongoing Building Intercultural Bridges project that we have been working on here at UNED. I have also worked with it at other universities, and it has been very successful. So that's why we want to bring it to you today. Next, we're going to provide you, obviously, with the website that I used. Jonathan is going to talk about his experience and what he has used as well, because our experiences were a little bit different. And obviously, the idea with this platform is to connect students from all around the world, not just Canada, right? You can talk to people in Korea. Maybe you might have a class in Korea that you want to contact the teacher and their students and have this cultural exchange. The last but not least, we're going to give you some ideas and tips that maybe you can use and hopefully that you will use to incorporate into your classrooms. Yes.
So, hello everybody. For the next 4 hours, we're going to be, no, just kidding. We're going to be talking about this. So basically, we're going to talk a little bit like the introduction to this workshop. We will talk about the Building Intercultural Bridges project, what it is, how it came about, etc. Why is it important to integrate technology and language in EFL classrooms? Practical, the website and demonstration and ideas on how you can do your own project and how you can create your own project in the classroom, tips, and of course, Q&A question. So to begin with, I would like to know how many of you are sitting in a row next to a person you already know? Raise your hand. Oh, many of you, thank you for being so honest, because then you're not going to work with that person. So what you're going to do right now, we want you to talk to somebody that is not sitting in the next row as you are. So either somebody from the back, from the front, and talk about this. Have you ever participated in a virtual exchange program as a teacher or as a student? How was your experience? If you haven't, how would your what would your expectations be? What would you expect from a virtual exchange program? And what are some topics that you can think of in a virtual exchange intercultural project? Okay? Finally, why as teachers, why are authentic tasks important in EFL? Because this is actually one of the purposes with our presentation. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. Go ahead, look for somebody that is not sitting next to you, that is either on the back or in the front, and talk about it. Later. Yes, not now. One more minute. Remember, you have 3 questions on the board. All right, thank you very much. Hopefully you got time to talk about the 3 questions that are there. We can go back to our seats now. Okay, so I would like one person to tell us about question number 1, one person about number 2, and one person about number 3. So who would like to start with, have you ever participated in a virtual exchange program as a teacher or student?
My name is Christine Gamboa, and I want to share one virtual exchange I had with my students at school. I have some friends in Argentina and in Colombia, so one day I worked with the Argentinian group, and the other week I worked with the Colombian group. And we prepare yes or no questions because my students didn't know about the other country. They just knew that we were going to have a conversation with a group of students. So they started with yes or no questions. Is your country in the north? Does your country border this and this country? And they had to guess what country it was. So they say, oh, it is Costa Rica. Then it was our turn asking questions, and we discovered it was Colombia. I knew already, right? But they didn't. This was the first part. The second part, my students talked about important things in Costa Rica. And the third part was a session, a mini session in Spanish, talking about what they wanted to know, like, usan piercings en su colegio, los dejan usar el pelo largo, things like this that were very important for my students. Now we have a second project that is with idioms that we use in each country, so we have to.
Very good.
To
Did
work
your
in it.
students like the experience?
Of course, definitely, yes.
Thank you.
I did too.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, what topics would you talk about or would you expect to talk about in a program like this?
Well, in our case, we were talking about maybe food, also values, and also this girl mentioned about fashion and beliefs in general. Yeah.
Great. So some topics are like more, let's say, everyday today, and
Yeah.
some others are a little deeper into the culture, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. And why are authentic tasks important in the EFL?
Hi everybody, my name is Mariana, and I think that they are important because they connect people and they involve emotions. You will feel scared, happy, excited, curious, and that makes a meaningful experience.
Great, thank you very much. So yes, part of this experience was we wanted to provide students with some real life situations, nothing that is only classroom-based situations, right? And we were also very happy at the beginning of today's day or today's conference when Dr. Lubin was talking about culture and how to integrate culture. and how to integrate authentic materials. And together with authentic materials, we are going to talk a little bit more about authentic tasks, not only the materials, right? So we hope that you really enjoyed this presentation today.
Okay, well, we're going to mention a little bit again the importance, right, of implementing authentic speaking tasks in the EFL classroom. And I think just to mention as well, taking advantage of technology that we have. The world is our oyster now with technology. Really, there are no borders or limits. Thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to start a little bit with, obviously, creates real-world communication skills. Okay, so they're talking about food, or they're talking about travel, they're talking about their own experiences, how they feel. And I think, in turn, this really increases the students' motivation. They really like participating in this particular kind of exchange program because they get to share about themselves, their families, maybe show pictures, for example, of different things of Costa Rica. In this case, it was Canada, so they can share that information as well. And obviously, it really helps with the development of communication. So using the language in everyday or real situations when we encounter different people, when we want to meet somebody new, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to say? Okay, and also as I was saying before, well, at the beginning, I guess, regarding varied language, in this case, they were talking to French-speaking Canadians, so who are learning Spanish. Practicing their English. So in this case, they were also learning, the students, my students that I worked with, they were helping the students speak Spanish. So they were actually even teaching the students a little bit of Spanish, how to use the Spanish properly, maybe some expressions, and also vice versa, right, with French. So maybe they taught them some French expressions and also, of course, improving their English along the way. And again, with assessment of practical language use, we're assessing what they're doing with the real communication, what's happening here. Obviously, we can give them on this particular platform that this teacher created, we can give them instant feedback, we can be messaging, and things like that. And I think all of these things together, it helps build confidence because, as you know, learning or speaking another language can be very intimidating. It's not easy. So a lot of students always tell me, teacher, I'm scared. I don't know, I'm going to make a mistake. Well, we all make mistakes, but I think that they feel really proud that they're able to communicate their ideas, they're being understood by somebody else, not just their classmates. So in turn, it is really helping them build the confidence they need to go out into the real world. Yes, thank you.
So what is the project about? You might be asking yourselves. Well, this project, let me tell you a very short story. I was in an activity similar to this one, and one of the presenters was a Colombian teacher, and she is a Spanish teacher in Canada. So during break, and this is why I love these kind of activities, because during break parts, we started talking, and I was like, oh, you teach Spanish in Canada, how's the experience, etc. And then we said, why don't we think about something? Let's do something together. You are in Canada, I am in Costa Rica, you have students who are learning Spanish, I have students who are learning English. So then I contacted the head of the department here in the university, in the major, and then we talked about the possibility of having this exchange program. Of course, it's very difficult sometimes to get the funding, the money to have students move around the world, right? And the time. But what about a virtual exchange program? So we have students from UNED, we have Canadian students and Costa Rican students. UNED is like the institution moving things around, and then we group these two groups of students. Initially, we started working with the University of Lethbridge, which is also a public university in Alberta, Canada. And later, we came about getting to know the the website that Clare is going to tell you a little bit later. And we included students from Quebec. So this was very interesting because with students from Alberta, they are English speakers. That's their first language. But students from Quebec, English is their second language, and they were learning Spanish as a third language. So what do we do here? We had cooperation between UNED and other institutions. Right now in Canada, we are looking for other institutions around the world. We did student recruitment here at UNED because this is a voluntary program at UNED. It's not part of any subject that students take. So we asked students, do you want to enroll in this project? And do you have the time to do it? Would you like to experience? Then we have online synchronous sessions. In my case, with the teacher or with the students from Alberta, what we do is that we set up 5 times every term, and we meet synchronously, like the 10 students from Costa Rica, 10 students from Canada via Zoom, and we send them into breakout rooms. We give them, they know the topic beforehand. We send them into breakout rooms. They record the session in the breakout room, so they can be provided feedback later, and we go room by room monitoring, helping them a little bit, etc. Prior to the sessions, we also give them some questions to guide the conversation, just in case they need them. The questions are not mandatory. You can use these questions. You can use your own questions. Just try to talk about this topic. Of course, what is rich about this program is that when students meet, they always tell me, well, today we were supposed to talk about health systems in Canada and Costa Rica, and we did not. We talked about tourism, or we talked about my house and their house, and how houses are built differently in both countries. Well, that's part of the project. There's no problem in doing that, right? Because what we do is we provide you feedback on your language, authentic language, and then it doesn't matter the topic. And personalized feedback as well, okay? So these are some of the discussion topics that we generated. Some of these were taken from online websites. Some of these were constructed by us. Some of these were constructed with the help of ChatGPT. So, Ticos, the culture of pura vida. That is one of the topics. They have to talk like, what does pura vida mean? Does it mean thank you? Or does it mean, yeah, right? Or does it mean, how are you? Or what does it mean? Getting to know your own, your country, customs and holidays, movies, books, and TV. Getting to know you, interculturality, and future plans. So these are just some of the topics. We also talked about educational systems, healthcare systems, political systems, okay? Challenges, yes, there are some challenges because we need to make sure our students are culturally aware, and that's the first contact we have with students from UNED. It's usually an email, and we explain to them, how can you be culturally aware? Like, how can you not say, oh, that's, well, I don't know, how is your system in Costa Rica? Oh, my system is normal. No, it's not normal, it's just different, okay? Which is being culturally aware. In your culture, you have something that is done a way. In my culture, it's just different. We do it a different way. Respect the other cultures as well. Like, don't pretend that people from Canada are going to be exactly the same as you. If they have genuine questions, don't say like, oh, that's so basic. We Costa Ricans say pura vida. How come you don't know that? No, it's a new culture for those students, so be respectful of their ideas and their opinions as well. And now Clare is going to talk a little bit about the World Chat Live.
Okay, we're going to move on to the website that I have been using, not only for this university, but I have used it elsewhere as well. So it's called World Chat Live. You can go there. It's a safe pedagogical tool. It is designed by teachers for teachers. Okay, so there is support always for authentic conversation with students from around the world. Like I said, not necessarily Canada, it could be, I don't know, Africa, it could be Southeast Asia, Australia, for example. And I think, like I said, we've been talking a lot about building the bridges, right, between different cultures and how we're becoming really one altogether. So it helped provide students with authentic learning experiences, which are very, very important. This is Anna Marie. If you want, you can contact her, actually. She's more than willing to help you with the website. Her email address is there. She's the one that actually has put together this platform for teachers. I'm just going to play a video, and she's going to talk a little bit about the platform itself.
A teacher, because I wanted my students to have authentic speaking opportunities. If you have Spanish speaking students that have to speak English with one another in the classroom, it lacks authenticity. When they get to speak English with students in Vietnam, in South Korea, in India, in Croatia, in Canada, then they get to practice their second language in a very authentic way. They complete what each other has to say, so their vocabulary building is just exponential. Their self-confidence is also boosted because they're able to manage to make themselves understood and to understand other students as well. Their accent also, they finally understand that there's not just the British English accent and the American English accent. There are tons of different accents, the South Korean English accent, the Italian English accent, and so forth. And Watch Out Live education really is meant to be for any language. It can be for English as a foreign language or as a second language, but also Spanish, French, and so forth. And quite often what ends up happening is that the students throw in their mother tongue as well in a way that everybody can learn and the brain can relax. And so the students that are in Costa Rica, that are Spanish speaking with Canadian students, Francophone Canadian students, we have French students in Canada, French speaking people, that speak English with one another are also going to throw in a little bit of French when they're looking for a word. And then the Spanish student will say, oh, is that how you say table in French? It's table. We say mesa. And then the brain just begins to relax and all the connections start happening. Beyond this, it's the cultural experience of a student, you know, in Canada, being asked by a student in Vietnam, are you a gang member? Are you in the mafia? Because they had tattoos all over, and over in Vietnam, when you have tattoos, you're part of the mafia. And so our Canadian student having to say, no, I'm not a gang member. This is what we do here. Beautiful cultural exchanges with our students, meeting students in Italy after having practiced their French for a long time. That was with English-speaking Canadians that were speaking with students in Spanish, and they were practicing French. So a world of possibilities beyond the classroom for authentic learning opportunities online through our virtual platform. Basically, what we offer is that the teacher creates the class with the parameters. What's the level? Let's say intermediate. What's the target language? English. And what's the age group? Let's say 16 years old to 19 years old. After that, your class is created, you design your questions. So the students don't just go on and talk about anything. You can ask them to have the first week talking about landscape, second week about food and festivals and holidays, third week about politics, fourth week about the educational system, and so forth. And then they can compare and contrast, prepare the questions, and build their vocab from there. So the way that it's designed is that the teachers create the class, they then create the questions, and then the students enroll in that particular class. Any students that don't belong there, you can remove them from your class. And then the students will be matched with a partner and they start talking. So they schedule their meeting on the platform. You have a beautiful calendar. And what's great is that the teachers can then see who's meeting when. So that way you're able to also jump on a call if the students are meeting at 9 p.m. San Antonio time, or like 10 a.m. New Delhi time. You can jump in on a call, But if you can't, then you can just watch the recording. So everything is automatically recorded and it's stored on a safe server. And the point is that the students can watch their own recording, nobody else's, and the teachers can also watch the recordings of the students. So you can track their progress. See, okay, so Maria had her meeting last night. It lasted, an hour and a half. And then you can see, and you can even leave feedback as a teacher, audio feedback or written feedback, like cuidado, with the final S pronunciation, third person singular. So you can leave feedback also, which is really helpful to students. And that's it. This is in a nutshell what it looks like. I'm going to share my screen and I will show you very briefly what it looks like. I'm going to take you to the main page here. So this is where you get to our landing page. And these are all the countries where we have participants, teachers and students. And so you would basically sign up on the top right corner as a teacher. Once you're in, I'm just going to take you to Claire's account, whom you know, and just to show you what that looks like. So she has her dashboard. These are the folders of the classes that she's used WorldChat with. And then she can click on any class and she can see at a glance, this is her partner teacher here. She can message her partner teacher. She can see on the calendar who's meeting. She can also get some notifications of who needs attention and so forth. And then she can quickly go and plan the discussion topics, which she already has with the questions. She can also go to analytics and get at a glance information about the students, including the recordings of the meetings. And so if I click on something like this here, I can see that the students are having discussions. I'm just going very quickly, so maybe I can click on this one here, and then we see both students talking, and then the teacher can leave feedback for the students here at the bottom. You can also see per student, and so I'm going to select here to show only the videos that last over 10 minutes. And so I see the name of my student, who she's paired up with, and these are all the meetings that she had. So she had 4 meetings, completed all those questions. These are the messages that she sent. I can also access the conversations. Again, for security purposes, students can also be red flagged if there's ever an issue. And you can also view the student profile and their information, or you can log in as a student if they forget their password or there's ever an issue. So it's a wonderful tool to match your students with students around the world, expand their horizon, their mind, and help them improve their English skills or any second language skills in a very authentic way. Wishing you all the best, and just get in touch with me. You can find us WorldChat Live Education. That's WorldChat Live Education. The website is worldchat.live, and you can also email me. Claire is going to give you the information. So best regards to everyone, and cheers. Mucho gusto. Ciao. Buen día.
Okay, so that gives you, I think she kind of covers it pretty well in the video. So there's what the interface looks like, a little bit of the platform. So for this particular platform, all the recordings are there. So you can take a look at the recordings, you can take a look at the messages, you can also supervise, always monitoring what the students are doing, and you can keep in contact with the teacher as well, the other teacher that, for example, in Canada, I was keeping in touch with her, and that's really nice as teachers because you also get to meet other teachers from around the world as well, which is very interesting.
Okay, so one of the things students have to do at the beginning is they don't know the person and they need to find out, right, who that person is. So that's usually our first session, finding out and getting to know the other person a little better. Some differences between what Claire did and what I did. Claire found out students' likes and dislikes prior, and then she pairs students up together with a teacher from Canada. In my case, what we did was just at random. We met all together. If there were 10 Costa Ricans, 10 Canadians, one-on-one, they go to breakout rooms. We don't know who's talking to who, all right? And they need to find out the other, what the other, or who the other person is. And if we had sometimes 5 Costa Ricans, 10 Canadians, we did 1 Costa Rican and 2 Canadians in one breakout room. And it was Very interesting, really rich experience. So right now I'm going to give you some instructions for this activity, and then I will tell you how we will carry out the activity, okay? So, number one, you need a piece of paper and a pencil or a pen, all right? Number two, don't do it yet. I will tell you how to do it. You must write down 3 likes and dislikes, okay? So let's do this one right now. Just think about yourself. 3 likes and 3 dislikes you have personally. I don't know. I like olla de carne. I like sushi. And I like motorcycles. I don't like tomato. And I don't like healthy food that much. 3 likes and 3 dislikes. All right? Hopefully you have at least 1 and 1 or 2 and 2. You are going to find a partner. Don't do it yet because we're not going to do it where you are. So you're going to find a partner. You will discuss your likes and dislikes only for 1 minute. I will tell you when the minute is up. So make sure you have time to take turns, all right? Make sure one person doesn't monopolize the whole conversation in that minute. And then I'm going to tell you when you have to move and find another person to talk to, okay? So if you hear me say switch, you need to look for a different person, okay? And at the end, we're going to try to find similarities or differences with the other people. So for this activity, I need everybody to stand up and come here to the front, please. We're not going to be seated there. Come to the front, everybody. Come to the front. I'm going to wait for everybody to be up front. Okay? So I want you to start walking around right now. Just start walking around. Walk around. Here in the front, walk around, mingle. Yes, go ahead. Walk around. Okay, stop, look for somebody, and start with your first minute. If there are no pairs, you can do a group of 3. Start talking. Okay, switch. Look for a different person. Okay, last time, but this time we're going to do it in Spanish. So look for somebody and talk in Spanish. Look for a different person, talk in Spanish. Okay, time's up. Time's up. Thank you. We can go back to our seats. We can go back to our seats now. Thank you. I see you were very excited. You wanted to continue, right? You wanted to go on and on and on. So, I want at least one or two people to tell me, how was the experience? How did you feel at first getting to know somebody you had no idea?
Hi, my name is Steph. I feel it's hard to say what do you like and what you don't like. Sometimes you're like, what do I say? What do I say? What makes me different from other people? And it looks like at the end we have a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences too, and that's great. That's part of what I feel is a great exchange of information.
Amazing. Thank you. Another person. How was your experience during this activity? Just one person, not everybody at the same time.
Well, hello, my name is Tiffany. I would like to say that in this activity, something that was very interesting is that we could say that we have like maybe an idea of how we were going to work. Like, I like this, this, and this, and this, and I dislike this, and this, and this, and this. But while we were talking, we were like, I dislike this. So the other person was like, oh my God, I didn't wrote that, but I also dislike that. So it's like we were adding our information to each other, and it was like, you're right, I also like that, or I also love that, or in the other way, I don't like that at all. I wouldn't do that anyways, I don't like it. So I think that is a very interesting thing that happened while we were doing this.
Thank you. Christine.
Okay. Sorry. I have an incorporated microphone. Something that I liked was when we had to speak Spanish, because sometimes people believe that it is forbidden, right? And students like to speak Spanish in certain activities. And also, it is difficult for us to switch from English to Spanish. It was interesting.
Okay, so that's what our experience, what our students experience, right? Thank you very much for those participations. So what we wanted for you to see with this activity, two things. Number one, yes, in real life situations, we don't have an interview and I get to say 3 things that I like, you get to say 3 things that you like. We have a real conversation, an exchange, and that happens all the times. That's why students started talking about one thing, and suddenly they were talking about another thing, because they were like, oh, and so you have sisters. I have sisters too. And then they start talking about their family, right? And the other thing that was that I wanted you to experience with this activity is how interesting it is that we're always trying to speak in English, but then in this part, we get to use our mother tongue, right? So for this project, students had to do at least 1-hour sessions, 30 minutes in Spanish, 30 minutes in English, because we wanted both populations to practice the language they were learning. Now, we're going to show you some examples or some videos of what students think about this project.
Okay, I'm going to present a couple of videos here. These are 2 students. One student is here, Alexa, and the other one, Natalie, that participated in the project. So we're going to hear some of their testimonials.
Hello, my name is Natalie Elizondo. I am currently studying English teaching for first and second cycles in UNED. In the first period of 2024, I decided to participate in a project of building intercultural bridges, where I had the opportunity to talk with Canadians about our culture, traditions, gastronomy, music, holidays, trips, and and even our hobbies and lifestyles. After this experience, I learned a lot about Canada, and I would like to keep learning more about this wonderful country. But in general, my partners taught me a lot and motivated me to speak in English at all times. That's why I feel it was a very special and enriching experience for me as a student. And also, I would like to thank the English department of UNED and WorldChat for facilitating a safe and respectful space for this type of cultural exchange. So thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Alexa, and I was one of the students who participated in the Building Cultural Bridges project. For this project, we had the opportunity to meet students from Canada. To communicate, we use a platform named WorldChat. This website has the option to chat and video chat with your partners. In my case, my partner was a student named Ricardo. Some things that I learned about him are that he is a firefighter, he enjoys learning new languages, and even though he lives in Canada, he prefers warm climates. Overall, I enjoyed this cultural exchange for several reasons. First, I got to know a new culture. Also, I had the chance to improve my English skills while helping my partner to improve his Spanish skills. We used to help each other to expand our vocabularies while getting to know each other. Moreover, this project gave us the freedom to talk about random topics, so our weekly sessions felt more personal. We talked about our families, our career goals, and even share fun facts about our hometowns. I believe that the platform was extremely helpful with this process, since we didn't have to worry about recording the sessions or creating the links to schedule new meetings. All we had to do was to focus on showing up and having casual conversations while exchanging knowledge about our cultures. Finally, I would like to invite other students who feel curious about this project. I promise it's a wonderful experience that offers a lot of knowledge and the opportunity to make new friends.
Okay, very good and excellent feedback there. We have one of Jonathan's students.
Hola, me llamo Kelly. Nací en Lethbridge, Canadá. Aquí. He vivido en Lethbridge la mayor parte de mi vida. Cuando tenía 4 años, mis padres se divorciaron. Cuando era más joven, vivía con mi abuela y mi papá. He vivido con mi mamá desde que tenía 16 años. Desde que era una niña, me ha gustado mucho viajar y aprender idiomas. En la escuela aprendí un poco de francés y japonés. Nunca he estado en Costa Rica, pero he estado en Europa, China y en los Estados Unidos. A los 17 años iba a Alemania y vivía allí. A los 18 años comencé a estudiar química en la Universidad de Lethbridge. Me pareció muy divertido y importante. Creo que he progresado en mi comunicación en español. A veces me sentí muy ansiosa, pero al final era menos tímida. Muchas gracias por escuchar y pura vida.
Se prendió por la vida. Okay.
So some of the richer things about this, students from Costa Rica, we also have Katia, who was one of the participants in the program. And some of the students from Canada, or students in Costa Rica, were not learning only about Canada. We had students from Ukraine, from the UK, from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Canada, France. So they were learning about many other cultures, not only one of the cultures. And one of the things they said in the video, I was able to talk about my culture. And it's something that is very significant to me and something that I know about. I mean, I know something about my country, my culture. Why to integrate technology and language in this case? We have a lot of authentic language. In this case, students talking to other people who are using the language in everyday conversation. Interactive learning environments, like the ones we created through Zoom or the one with World Chat. So that is something we can do. Personalized and adaptive learning. So the moment we asked our students, you are going to be talking about your culture, we are personalizing learning. So I know about my culture, but how do I say, is there a word to say gallo pinto in English? Should I say it in a different way? Or how do I explain that this is a very important dish in my culture, right? It increases opportunities for communication. So I encourage you not only to use World Chat or to talk to, do these kind of exchanges with teachers from another country. You can look for teachers that are also in Costa Rica, or like Christine did with teachers from Colombia, from Argentina, that are also teaching English as a foreign language. And what we can do is use English to communicate and to learn a little bit more about our culture. Guanacaste is very different from Limón, or San Jose is very different from Alajuela, right? In Alajuela, we say chiribiscos. Here you say apretados, right? Or the other way around, I don't remember. So these are things that we can be talking about in our classrooms with students from other parts of the country. Flexibility and accessibility. Our students at UNED, they need flexibility, and that's what we gave them. We gave them flexibility. You meet at different times, you get different schedules. We enhance multimodal learning, not only audio, but also writing, reading, speaking, and motivation and engagement. Definitely, our students were very motivated. The first session usually lasted only 1 hour, and the last 5 minutes of each turn, in Spanish or English, we were providing more help because they didn't know what to talk about. In the last session, students were like, the hour is over, because they had already established a connection with another person, and they were willing to speak a lot, okay?
Okay, and lastly, I'm just going to go over some tips that might help you if you want to implement this kind of project in your classroom. Yeah, obviously the same thing happened with my students at the beginning. Like I said, they were very shy. Maybe they didn't know what to talk about, but by the end, some of the videos were like an hour and a half. So yes, which was really nice, But yeah, they did have a really good time towards the end. Well, with any project, I think we need to have clear objectives, expectations. We need to prepare the students, which is very important. So we did meet with the students ahead of time. We did talk with them. Also, we showed them some videos on how to use the platform, because they also needed obviously learn how to use the technology. Then, of course, always with the integrate language support, encourage reflection and feedback. So like the midterm, we had a reflective session so that the students could reflect a little bit on how things were going or what things needed to be improved upon. Then, obviously, as well, having structured tasks. Like I said, we provided the conversation and questions, but really there are many other kinds of tasks that you can do, right? So you can work on a different kind of project. I have worked on integrated projects with some students where they have to maybe read a little bit first about the country, then they use the conversation questions like the chat, and then they can write like a reflection as well about it. And of course, promoting cultural sensitivity. Foster open communication is very important. So with my students, I had a WhatsApp group. So we were like always texting just in case if something happened to the platform, then I would inform Anna Marie and she would obviously try to fix the technical issue so that, and also, well, yes, celebrate always everybody's achievements and how good of a work everyone is doing. Okay, also support, monitor, and most importantly, technology, right? Make sure the students have internet, some use to, like I said, to a laptop, to a computer. Also, very important to keep in mind that try also to tell the students that if they are going to be chatting with someone, try to create a nice, they can maybe sit in a room that's quiet so their parents are not screaming at them in the background or airplanes flying overhead. So those were some issues there a little bit, but these are some tips, obviously, that you can use. And these are some of the resources for getting conversation questions. There are hundreds of resources out there that are free. So maybe if you're stuck and you don't know what conversations to create for your classroom, there's lots of conversation websites out there. So we would like to thank you. So thank you very much for paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much, Claire and Jonathan. That was very, very interesting. We have time for one question. Who would like to ask a question for our presenters? We have one there. I'm sorry, she was first.
See, since I am not from this institution, I am from INA. What about INA? Is able the community from INA students enroll with this kind of conversations, or it will be prohibited?
So that's a very administrative question, but I think there is definitely the opportunity. We're always looking for opportunities to provide our students with opportunities. So definitely we can get in touch. You can talk to Margot or to Tobias, and they can make it happen, because it's our interest to continue working on projects like this, not only outside of the country, but also with institutions within the country as well.
Hi.
I think we have time for one more.
Thank you. This is Diana. Just a quick question. Is this over, the project? Is it still ongoing? Are you going to replicate it, or?
In September.
It's just that we're interested.
Okay, yeah, sure, no, great. Yeah, sign up. Yes, it is, because it's an ongoing project. So yes, for this quarter, we will be offering this program. So yes, if you want, you can talk to Margot and ask her to sign you up. Yes. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. So before you go, let me give you a little gift. This is for Jonathan, and this is for you. Thank you. Okay, again, thank you very much, Claire and Jonathan, for that wonderful presentation. We will now continue with our closing plenary session, led by Master Andrea Lasso de la Vega. Moreno, I'm sorry. lots of, yes. Okay, and her talk is entitled Unlocking the Potential of Student Communication. Master Andrea Lasso de la Vega Moreno is a professor at the Program of English for Specific Purposes from the School of Modern Languages at the University of Costa Rica, where she has also worked for different programs. She was a professor at Universidad Estatal a Distancia, teaching both degree courses and courses open to the public. She has experience as a teacher and coordinator of English departments at primary schools. She graduated from the BA in English and holds a master's degree in teaching English as a foreign language, both from the University of Costa Rica. She is also a certified oral proficiency evaluator from the American Council of Teachers of Foreign Languages. She's also an international academic consultant for Oxford University Press. Now, her plenary session provides a blend of theoretical insights and practical recommendations to better equip teachers with the tools needed to foster communicative competence in their students. The session starts by highlighting the role of speaking in overall language proficiency, its challenges, and recommendations on how to overcome them. It then explores role-playing scenarios, discussion and debates, task-based learning, and communicative approaches as tools for practical implementation in the classroom. So with that, please join me to welcome Master Andrea Lasso de la Vega Moreno.
Hi, can you hear me well? Yes? How are you doing? Great. I see lots of people I know. That's amazing. Hi. So I'm so happy to be here with all of you. So you already had a little bit of my intro over there. And I'm very excited to be part of this amazing event. I think that as educators is extremely important to be part of this type of activities where we can share knowledge, get updated, also sometimes stop and go back to basics. So yeah, we're gonna be here for around 1 hour. So how is your energy level at this point? Be honest. Low, medium, high? Fine? Great, amazing. So let's hope to keep it that way. Let me just check that this is working. Okay, great. And can you hear me now? Yep, super. It's because I need to be moving around. Okay, as with any other academic activity, it's very important to get started with the objectives, okay? So let me show you the objective that we have for today. That is, by the end of this session, we will be better equipped with tools to foster communication by means of fundamental teaching principles, contexts, and realities, while acknowledging the key role that students and teachers have in the learning process. And here I have some keywords, okay? Well, obviously, communication, that is part of the topic that we have for today. Principles in terms of the framework, academic framework that we're gonna use, then the different contexts in which we can apply communication, and also our realities as teachers, okay? And the important role that students have inside the classroom, but also the important role that we have inside the classroom. Because I don't know, but I have felt like recently, like all the attention is always in the student, right? Isn't it? That's perfect, that's great. But what about the teachers? We also sometimes need some help, right? So I want to go back to that. Bless you. Then, in all the type of presentations that I have, or workshops, or webinars, I always like to keep this in mind. And it's this idea of sharing is caring. Because even though as teachers, we are always surrounded by lots and lots of people, coworkers, students, I think that teaching can be a little bit lonely sometimes, isn't it? Like, we plan alone, we grade alone, we cry alone sometimes when we need to. So going back to my first idea, I think that's why this type of activities are necessary, because we can learn a lot from each other. So do I have here, also to get to know you a little bit more, do I have students that are taking right now the major in English? Yeah, amazing. Welcome, everybody. Do I have teachers that have recently started working or already have lots of years of experience? There you go. Welcome too. So there's always room for learning. And my other message here is an invitation to explore knowledge and teaching practices from a realistic standpoint. Why? Because theory is amazing. It's the framework that can guide us in lots of processes. But has it happened to you that sometimes what the theory says doesn't match the reality inside the classroom. You read things like, oh yeah, you can use these teaching approaches, and it works in this and this and this form, and everything is beautiful in groups of 10 students. And then you get into your groups with 20, 25, 30 or more students, and you say, what is this? Has it happened to you? Yeah, and sometimes we have this pressure, like everything has to be perfect, right? And sometimes teaching is connected to everything has to be perfect, organized, under control, and we become these almighty kind of characters that we have to know everything, be ready, and 100% in motivation. Is that reality? No, and that's also okay for us to be vulnerable, especially if we are going to deal with communication. So I want you to keep in mind your teaching reality. What type of materials do you have access to, the type of population you work with, your background knowledge, your motivation, your expectations, okay? So you can really personalize this experience. So not everything should be that serious. So I have this for you. Think about your week. How was your week? How would you describe it with numbers? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Personally, my week was like a 5. I was trying to juggle many things at the same time. How was your week? 7? 3? An 8? Over 4? Oh, that's very nice. That's super nice. Like, I don't know what is happening around, but here I am, isn't it? Great. What about here? Because I know you have been with lots of things. A 9? Oh, I like that one. Just dancing over there. Great. Super. So even though we're using sometimes pictures, that's also part of communication, right? This is meaning that we are creating based on our feelings. And that's kind of the idea that I want to address today, okay? Communication doesn't have to be all the time so serious and so structured and so, no, we can also relax. Because as teachers, we work as model for our students. So if communication has to be always so strict and organized in step 1, step 2, and step 3, that's what our students will try to model. And communication is also this, having fun sometimes. So, because I also want you to participate, so with the person right next to you, what is communication? It could be analyzed from lots of different points of view, but what is communication for you? Maybe as a student, as a teacher, think about how things work inside the classroom. If you know about any other specific theories that you would like to add, what is communication? But let's keep it simple. Let's relax, okay? Can you take your shoulders and can you do this? Oh, yeah, amazing. Now you look different. There you go. Because as teachers, we're always like this. So, let's relax. There you go. Let's relax. So with the person, there you go, nice, right next to you, a couple of minutes for you to think about communication, and I will be walking around, okay, to get some ideas.
Ay, por ahí no vamos. De la Vega Moreno. Yo no sabía que tenías
Tanta gente.
Sí, exacto.
Pucha, ahí dando cola yo. Ay, qué rica. Okay, so let's see, any volunteers? There you go.
Hi, my name is Katia. Well, we were talking about the different kind of communication, like colors, flowers, texting, emojis, contractions, like IDK or something like that. Body language, which is important. And it's beyond that speak, the communication, we think, and we discuss.
Love it, amazing. I'm gonna refer to many of those ideas. Thank you so much for that. One more, please, tell me.
Hello, my name is Paula. We were speaking with my partner here. She loves dogs and I love cats. So for us, for both of us, communication is a process, of course, and an ability to convey ideas in a clear and effective way. Not always perfect, but always effective and clear. So for example, with human beings it's a little easier, but she has dogs that bark, and in the different sounds they can communicate different things. I have cats, and sometimes they just sit next to their plate because they want to eat and they say nothing and they don't say meow or anything like that. They just sit there, but I understand they are communicating me that they want to eat. So it's not a perfect way, but it's clear and it is effective.
Thank you so much for that. And precisely, those are the type of ideas that I want to explore today. When we talk about communication, we can go and look it up in the dictionary, and we can have something like this: the activity or process of expressing ideas and feelings, or of giving people information. Pretty straightforward. What do I like about this definition? That it could be an activity, or as you mentioned, a process. If we talk about a process, it's because we're looking for a product. And it includes content in terms of information and also feelings, okay? And when we work with communication, it's not only in written form, it can be also orally. We could also have gestures. We could have the media involved, like with examples, as you mentioned, as emojis, and body language. So in some studies that have been conducted, they have analyzed the impact that body language has when communicating. And it's sometimes even more important than grammar and vocabulary. Don't get me wrong, we need grammar and vocab and pronunciation and so on and so forth. But this kind of supports the idea that sometimes it's not about the message, but how you deliver the message. Maybe I have to give you some bad news, but depending on how I deliver those news, you will have a different reaction to them, okay? And that's exactly the type of communication that we have to kind of focus on in class. And you mentioned something very important related to the word perfect, right? In this type of presentations or workshops, I always eliminate the word perfect, as you did, right? Like, are we looking for perfection when we are teaching or when we are learning? Isn't that a lot? Isn't that like a very high objective standard to achieve? And what will be the purpose? What do we really want? For communication to be effective. And what happens with our students that sometimes they don't want to participate, or they don't know how to participate, or you can see that they are shaking or they turn red just because they have to share one simple sentence. Why? Because we have high standards in terms of communication that sometimes are not realistic. I mean, do we always have to prepare an outline when we have to speak? Like what you're doing here today. Sometimes it could be a little bit more informal. Not everything has to be like so formal. And that's the idea that I want for us today. There is a space for everything inside the classroom. Sometimes, yeah, we have to work with more formal context and the outline and maybe a persuasive speech and you name it, argumentation, beautiful. But we also need spaces to relax a little bit. And I think that the balance that we can find in that is kind of the key to help our students when they have to communicate. So, we can have different roles, and we can have just communication, but we can develop it into a competence. That's what we want with our students. Because if I just have the traditional, you're student A, you're student B, talk, yeah, they're communicating, but is that really developing some sort of competence? I don't know. So, if we talk about a competence, will be the ability to use language correctly and appropriately in different contexts, okay? Meaning if something is formal, if something is informal, depending on the audience, depending even on the topic. And here we have this other concept of linguistic competence. I don't know if you have heard about Noam Chomsky. Pretty famous, right? So he worked with this idea of linguistic competence that basically talks about this universal grammar, universal system that we have as human beings to structure language. And it focuses on syntax and grammar. But then we have this other person, Del Himes, that says, that's amazing, but we don't use language just as robots, right? We are humans, so we use it in a wide variety of options and contexts. So this person adds the idea of the social part of communication that really develops competence. And we already know the importance that communication can have in terms of academic, professional, and personal development. But it's very interesting that sometimes the students who really need to work on their communication skills are the ones that participate the less in class. Has you seen that? Like maybe the student that you say, okay, in terms of communication, like speaking, let's say, is doing great. And the ones that I need to practice and to interact a little bit more are the quiet ones, okay? So we need to restructure things inside the classroom. Everybody should have access to those spaces to practice and interact. But sometimes we have different factors that we're gonna see in a second that kind of affect how they can communicate. In terms of communication, as you were mentioning, we can have it in written form, spoken form. Today I'm going to focus a little bit more on the speaking part, not because it's the most important one, but it's the most common one, right? When somebody says, yes, I know German, I know French, it's because you expect the person to go and start speaking, right? Even though maybe the person knows the language and has some sort of competence in written form, which is also valid. Right? But today, I'm going to focus a little bit more on the speaking part. And when we are talking about competences, we can have different types. Regularly, inside the courses and different programs, we're going to focus on the first one, right? We tend to focus on the part of structure. And when we have some sort of oral evaluation in terms of the rubric, what are the 3 things that we always have in terms of rubrics? What do we always have? Let's think about an oral exam. Fluency, structure, vocabulary, there you go. And then you start adding other things, content, and exactly. But you will always have some sort of a structure, that will be grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation in some form or other in terms of isolated sounds or intonation, rhythm, you name it. But we have so much more in terms of competence. I'm not saying that we should not focus on those. Yeah, that will be amazing. But it's good for us also to know that we have other possibilities and also for our students to know that. So we have also the sociolinguistic competence, which is basically how you use language for a different register, if it's formal, if it's informal, for the topics, okay? There are some topics that you will talk for hours. If you give me a topic related to cats, I will talk for hours. You too. If you give me a topic related to math or economy, I mean, not even in Spanish. So it goes beyond languages. It's a matter of preferences and maybe the background knowledge that you have. And sometimes also, it's important to kind of get in contact with more informal ways of the language, because in terms of the textbooks, they tend to be always really, really, really formal and really, really academic, which is great. We need both of them, especially if we're also preparing future teachers, right? But sometimes our students can talk about environmental issues beautifully, with this amazing vocabulary and this persuasive speech and everything. but they don't know how to apologize, how to ask for clarification, right? And those are part of these ones. For example, the strategic competence, that is how to solve problems. I didn't understand that. Could you please repeat that? Or if somebody has a different opinion, okay, this is mine, how we present my idea for it to be polite too. So we have so much more, right? And then we have the discourse competence, which is basically the one in which we combine ideas, sentences, phrases together so the message can be well structured and clear. At the end of the day, we decide in a certain way how well we want to work with the language, right? And it also depends on what we need to do with the language. And we're gonna be talking also about expectations when we communicate, because I think that based on the expectations that we have, either because we want them or because they have been imposed in some way, that will kind of determine how comfortable we feel when we have to interact with others. So far, so good? Yep, great. So what are some of the challenges? Here I mentioned a couple of them, but I know that we could have so much more. So for this part, I want you to think about them, maybe when you were learning in English or if you were learning another language, or think about your students too. Personality. What happens sometimes in terms of communication that we say, hi, they should speak more and provide more ideas. And maybe when you listen to the person speaking, for example, in Spanish, that could be the native language, they just give a couple of sentences and that's it. It's a matter of personality. I know that depending on the context, if they're gonna be evaluated for their oral performance, I need content to evaluate them, I know. But sometimes we cannot impose or force somebody to use the language in a different way that they would do in their native language, right? Like, I get so nervous when speaking in English. Maybe even in Spanish, it doesn't matter the language. Maybe it's a little bit more extroverted or introverted, and that's okay. It depends on the context. Maybe we could have a very extroverted person in a party, but in job-related topics, super introverted. And that's okay. So always keep that in mind. Personality. Limited opportunities. If this person has taken courses, written courses, for example, or literature courses, but not like specifically oral courses, they're gonna struggle. It's the first time. Maybe these are skills that they don't even have in Spanish. Like how you take your ideas, how you organize them, how you summarize information. It goes beyond English, Spanish, German, French. It's an ability that you have to develop, and sometimes our students don't even have that in Spanish. So we have to go back, teach the ability, practice it, and then we keep moving, okay? So again, we have to check our expectations. Performance pressure. I'm here in front of all of you. You're gonna see me, you're gonna judge me. Oh my goodness. Our students normally will think that. And especially if they have a lower level, if you have oral presentations and then you have the student who is above the level and then you go and you're like, oh. So the emotional part is here. And this doesn't necessarily mean that the person doesn't know how to do things. It's just that maybe that day, or maybe that wasn't a good day for that person, something happened. Fear of making mistakes. Why? And I think this is something more cultural. And I have been analyzing this for a time now. And for example, you get in a course and you have 100. How then you move from 100 to an 80? By mistakes, basically. So in the oral presentation, instead of 100, you got a 90. And then in that quiz, you got an 80, and then you got a 50. So in the way we evaluate, and I'm not saying that is wrong or anything, it's just how it works, mistakes are seen as something negative because are the ones that take me away from the 100. And it depends on the concept that you have of 100, right? And also how we treat mistakes, and how sometimes teaching is structured in such a way that we have the instructions, and then you have the presentations, and then here you have your grade. And that was it. And as teachers, how many hours can we spend grading? Ooh. And what do our students do? Can I have this one as an example? Ay, pasé. Ay. And that was it. They will never see this again. So the mistake that this student has at the beginner level is going to be at the advanced level. It's also because I think that the system itself or the approaches that we are using are focusing a little bit more on the grade itself and passing the course or not, and not that much if we are really learning. I mean, after an evaluation, we should have and contemplate as part of a lesson plan some time for feedback. Maybe I don't have the time, and we have to be realistic, to go one by one. But maybe I could have a group session with the most important mistakes that we had. And in that way, we see mistakes as part of the process and not just something that will determine my grade. Linguistic gaps, I'm sure you have seen them, students maybe that are at a particular level and you say, no, this is not an intermediate student, this is a pre-intermediate student. Gaps in structure, in vocabulary, in practice. Passive learning. Sometimes, depending on the type of course, the materials, the time that we have available, it's just a student over there listening and listening and listening. So listening skills, amazing. But when they have to communicate, they can do that. Sometimes students that if you give them an exam, they will get very good grades, and you can see that they know the structure. They know the simple present. But when they speak, she works. Because something is the theory and something else is the practice. And sometimes we see it as something separate, and they should be integrated, so it kind of flows a little bit more. Lack of self-belief. I cannot do this. This is super difficult. And this is not the first time that I take this course. So the emotional part is over there. And maybe the person already has the tools. And then inadequate exposure. Again, sometimes they are exposed to more formal or informal contexts, and they don't know how to switch from one another. Sometimes even in emails. I have gotten emails from students that they just go like, send me the handout. They didn't come to class, so they just send me the handout. And I'm like, nothing like, thank you, hi. No, and this is something that I have to go back and address in class. Like, I know that maybe you don't know, so this is how you send an email to a professor. This will be like a WhatsApp to your friend. So also register is part of it. So do you identify with any of these? Have you seen this maybe in yourself too? In your students? Definitely. So what do we do? And here I have a question mark. Because if we go to the theory, this is usually what we get, and this is usually what we are already doing. Celebrate efforts. Do we do that? Yes! Congratulations, you did it, amazing. We get even happier than our students. So I think that one, check. Variety of activities? Yes, I think we do our best. Okay, I'm gonna focus a little bit on writing this class. Next class, I'm gonna focus a little bit more on reading and listening, and then I'm gonna focus on speaking. I'm gonna add this. I'm gonna use these, link for this and the song, and we're always looking for things, regardless, right? If it's a virtual class, you name it, we're always looking for things because we're very creative as teachers. So, variety of activities, yes, we have them. Active participation, yeah, it depends on the course, it depends on the materials, it depends on the time, but yeah. Sometimes we get, and I will move to the last one, of a student-centered approach. That now everything has to be student-centered, student-centered, student-centered. Can everything be a student-centered all the time? No. There are some moments during the class that it has to be teacher-centered, and it's okay. Nothing happens. Sometimes you need to get control over things, analyze. Let's take a look at these feedback. That will be teacher-centered in some way. Then I can do a follow-up activity that can be more student-centered. Then we have collaborative learning. Do we have that? Yeah, they work in groups, maybe peer assessment, if we want to evaluate that, peer feedback, role playing, do you use role plays? Too? So we are doing this, so what is happening? Because this is what the theory says. And do you have students in your classrooms that are like, they don't want to speak? And maybe they talk to you, ay, profe, it's so difficult, I try, I study, but I get so nervous and I forget everything I studied. And sometimes they even start crying. Has this happened to you? It has happened to me too. Depending on the occasion, I'm like, oh my goodness. So what is happening? And here, I don't know if you recognize this one from a very famous book. What book? The Little Prince. What do we know? El Principito. If you haven't read it, please read it. An amazing book. And what I want to do now is, let's imagine this is like an onion, and those recommendations, those previous recommendations, were basically the first layer. So we're going to peel it and move to the second layer. Because what is the connection of these to this story here? That you can see something, maybe the first one as a hat, and then in the second one, you have a big animal inside it. So sometimes what we see is not what is really happening, okay? So let's do that. And here, I have some examples that I have personally applied, and I wanted to share them with you in terms of communication, specifically the part of speaking with your students. Try them out. As teachers, we have to question everything. Question my recommendations. Question everything. Also, if everybody is doing something, don't feel forced to do that. Maybe that will not work for you. Maybe it's just trendy, or maybe it works under these circumstances, but maybe for you, for your teaching practices, for your groups, will not work, okay? So in this case, teacher as a role model. And let's be honest, has it happened to you that sometimes, I don't know, maybe a student asks you a very good question and you have no idea of the answer? Yes? I'm gonna be honest. What I first feel is my stomach. Tung! And then I say like, what do I say? Say something. He or she's waiting. Say something, say something. And I don't know the answer. I should know the answer. I'm the teacher, so how do I know? And I start. So we are a model. If we are constantly telling them, you don't need to know everything. We're gonna learn it together. We're gonna go step by step. Why do I need to have an answer for every single thing? Obviously, I need to have some sort of knowledge. I'm the professor, right? But there's also room to be flexible. So when that happens, you know, that's an amazing question. I have no idea of the answer. I'm sorry, I have no idea of the answer. Look it up and let me know. Because I don't have time to look it up. I have to grade all these papers, so you look it up. It was your question, look it up, and you teach me. So it will be a little bit kind of setting ourselves in a more humble position, which is okay, and letting our students know it's okay not to know. And we learn a lot in the process. But if they see that I go, or I come up with things just to give an answer, or maybe I give them a wrong answer just because I need to say something, no. So that will give them the confidence of knowing, like, if they are asked something and they don't know, I don't know. I don't know. But it's not just the I don't know, okay, let's do something about it. Growth, mindset, and expectations. Sometimes when people are learning another language, not sometimes, when people are learning other languages, they can do that for a wide variety of reasons. Because they want that to become their profession, because that is their passion, because that's something that they have in their life to-do list that they want to check, because they want to travel around the world, because they, All those reasons are valid. But we have to take a look at the expectations that we have. For example, if you want to learn English just because you want to survive, why do you set that pressure on you that you have to be a C1 and C2, and it must be it? It's not just to, that's it, and I will just survive with the tools that I have. No, it's always great to go for more and go for more. But when we have these expectations that are not realistic to the moment, what I can do in terms of my possibilities of time, motivation, resources, you name it, then we feel that we have failed. And it's not that. Or maybe that we don't have the ability to, and it's not that. Maybe the circumstances are not the best one at this moment. And that's why sometimes we get these type of publicity. Learn English in 3 months. Learn French in 3 months. And then you can even be the teacher if you want after the 3 months. Oh my goodness, that doesn't work like that. So when our students, after 3 months, are starting the process as it is supposed to be, they get frustrated. I am bad at this, I don't know, this will be impossible. No, expectations. So they get frustrated. And they say, why? I'm not able to speak right now. Because it's part of the process. You're going there, you're moving there. But you have to be patient. Then the Think in English comments. And there are some comments that we can maybe sometimes say in class that we also have to be careful with them. Think in English. And I have this question. How do I think in English? What is that? Maybe if we know English, we already have a sense of obviously how it works and grammatical parts and all the fancy words and so on and so on. For example, I don't know anything about German. If you tell me right now, my first day of class is in German, think in German, I don't know how to do that. What is that? No. So when we say that, and I have heard lots of people saying, it's because I need to learn how to think in English. You have been thinking in Spanish for all your life. It doesn't work like this. What you do is that you surround yourself by the language, you practice it, and then you get an idea and you come to the point of saying, that is wrong. I don't know why, but I would say that differently. That's what we want. You see? So when we say this and our students are not able to communicate and say, I have to think in English, I have to think in English. What is that? That's just adding pressure and there's no steps to follow. Learning over perfection. So sometimes we focus so much on and the grammar and this word and the schwa and the long U and that at the end we're missing the point of communication. Also, when you focus on the part of feedback and correction, analyze what type of feedback you're going to give for that interaction in speaking. If you're working with beginners and they have some sort of mistake with reported speech and conditionals, are you going to correct that? They don't have the tools to understand that yet. That will just add extra words on a piece of paper that say nothing. But if they have problems with third person singular, yes, you correct that. Because at the end of the day, you're spending more time grading for things that will not be checked and that will have no meaning to the person. Focus if in this evaluation, I want to work with grammar, if I want to work with vocabulary, if I want to work with pronunciation. If I give you one ball today for you to juggle, just one, you can do that. Maybe 2 balls? But if I give you 5 at the same time, and that's what we do with our students with feedback in terms of speaking. Yeah, it was great, but in content, you have to do this. And vocabulary, you have to be careful with this word because you say interesting, interesting, interesting 1,000 times. And then you have to be careful with the pronunciation of the word culture, that is culture and not culture. And then you have to be careful with this part of grammar because you're doing this. Remember how you move the am, the is, the are to the beginning so you can have the question. Can they work with all that at the same time? No. it's better to focus just on grammar if that's what you want for that evaluation. You help them and they will feel more confident, because that type of feedback, those mistakes are definitely the step to keep learning. So the connotation of mistakes completely changes. And also gradual exposure. If the first time they have to work on a group discussion and is evaluated in front of 1 or 2 or 3 professors and it's a 30% of their grade, we go little by little. This is the theory, you're gonna be A, you're gonna be B, let's sit down, let's interact, can you ask me questions? This is the feedback that I have for you, let's review it, and then I will move to evaluated part. And also relaxation techniques. It works. Haven't you seen your students when they have, for example, an oral presentation and they don't know what to do with their bodies, right? Maybe on the wall, and they start moving, and they start shaking, and you feel sorry for them because you have also been there. So something as simple as, I use the clip technique. A clip, take it. If they have an oral presentation that day, 1 clip for you, 1 clip for you, 1 clip for you, 1 clip for you. Take it, and they destroy it. At the end of the presentation, the clip is like this, and at the end, it's like all destroyed. Because that's a way in which they can kind of canalize all those emotions. Something as simple as that. They can use a pencil, a pen, or a piece of paper, whatever helps them step by step. So maybe for 3 oral activities, we're gonna have that. For the last one, no clip. And they already have the strategy. We model the strategy, we teach it, and we practice, okay? So we can go little by little. How much time do I have? 5 minutes, okay. So let me start wrapping it up. So, I know that we have content to cover, but always ask yourself the following question. Why am I teaching this? Question everything. Why am I teaching this? Yes, the simple present. Why? What do I want my students to do with the simple present? Be able to describe other people, describe a situation, and you name it. Those are functions. So we can work around the concept of a task, what I want them to do. The function, why am I using this? For example, to express needs and likes, to summarize information, clarify questions, interpret, summarizing, retelling, describing actions, persuading, why? And then you get the form. The form is how you do that. The form will be the vocabulary that you will need, the adjectives that you will need, the structure. I need the simple present, I need the present perfect for this. And in terms of pronunciation, I'm gonna focus on the ED ending or the S ending pronunciation. But most of the times, we start the other way around. I have to cover simple present. And then I think about any other activity. And that's how I lose communication in the class. I should start by the why. Why do I need this? So all my class will focus on communication in that way when possible, okay? So I think I'm gonna stop right here. I had some other ideas, but to summarize it, as teachers, always question everything. Think about, why am I teaching this? Try to include, when possible, communication in your classes. Don't make it something that is just related to evaluations. It's part of my daily activities. If I ask you today that you have to run for 1 kilometer just once during the course, maybe we will not be able to do that. But if in every single class we practice and practice and practice, then you will see speaking not as this huge big monster that will eat me, but something that I'm good at and that I'm learning. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the future. Have an amazing afternoon, everybody.
Thank you very much, Andrea. That was a very nice presentation. So we open the floor now to questions. Let's see who has a question for Andrea. Over there.
Hello, Jansei Soto. Thank you, Andrea. It was great.
Thank you.
And I knew that it was going to be that way since you started speaking. I have a straight question. I would like to have a piece of advice on how to increase self-confidence among students.
Thank you. Amazing question. So for self-confidence, I think that we have to work on expectations too. Because if they think that we are expecting them to be native speakers, that's kind of the concept that they have, right? I have to use English in a way that I look like a native speaker. So we have to start deconstructing all these ideas like think in English, and my pronunciation has to be like one of a native speaker. What is a native speaker? For example, in terms of English, we have a lot of varieties. In terms of Spanish, we have a lot of varieties. Kind of lower that pressure that we have on ourselves as teachers, and they also have on themselves as students, right? And also telling them, okay, you're doing this because of A, B, C, and D. You already know how to use Spanish. You're already proficient in your language. Here, you're going the extra mile to communicate with other people, for you to have other tools, so you're going the extra mile. And when you start kind of defining these concepts, like, okay, you should not have this perfect pronunciation. Start erasing those concepts with your students. What is perfect? Do we have perfect pronunciation in Spanish? Do we have perfect grammar in Spanish? Vocabulary, just take a dictionary in Spanish. We don't understand half of the words that we have on a page. And are we effective when communicating in Spanish? Yes. So I always give my students those type of examples kind of to set them back in terms of, if you want to push it and move forward, go. You can do it. You can work on ways that you will feel more comfortable and more kind of competent in the language. Go ahead. But right now, this is what we're doing. And also explain to them what they are supposed to do at a particular level. Because sometimes, like students who are starting the process, beginners, and they get frustrated because they don't understand a paragraph. How are they supposed to understand a paragraph? So I tell them, if you get to an advanced level and you don't understand any idea of the paragraph, okay, that's another story. But right now, are we talking in this paragraph about animals or about books? About books. Great, that's what I need. That's amazing. So they go like, ah. So they see that they can do it. So summarizing, lower their expectations for them to be realistic. Lowering expectations is not something bad, necessarily. Let's go back to basics and also to give them these examples so they feel comfortable and they know that they still have a long road ahead, but that we have to go step by step in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Teacher, how effective, I would say, do you think it is to deliver a class 100 to 90% completely in English? How this affects their confidence? Teacher Christine said that, and I, of course, agree with her, that sometimes they do like to speak in Spanish. They feel more comfortable speaking in Spanish. So, but how effective, in terms of teaching, right, it is to speak or to be able, because we know that we are not completely allowed to, right, to speak completely in English. Do you think that that's effective to communicate 100% in English to 90 to 100%? Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. That's an amazing question. And I think that we also have, like I will talk from my experience, right? I think that we have some myths also around the idea of only using English in the classroom. We have to take into consideration many different aspects, like the level. For example, if you're working already with students who are supposed to master the language, maybe advanced users, I don't see the need of going back into Spanish. But if you're telling me that you're working with students who are starting the process, it kind of relates to this idea of thinking English, right? And sometimes, and this is not just me, but authors and even in the teacher's guides of some books, recent books, you will see that they have like this suggestion. If you need to use your native language for this activity, please do so. Why not? If maybe I'm giving an instruction, and maybe it's a complicated activity, and then, okay, start working. And I see that they're like, what do we do? And they get frustrated, and we lose time because, okay, I have to go back and draw things. I can try it in English. I read my audience. If I see that it's not working, okay, what I do is Spanish parenthesis. For them to know that it's a parenthesis. Spanish parenthesis. Tenemos que hacer eso, eso, eso. ¿Estamos claros? Ah, sí, okay, super. And then we go back. In the groups, sometimes and it depends also on the intention of the activity. If my activity is for them to feel comfortable interacting with others, and if they have to use Spanish in some way, use it. Because the purpose of that activity is for them to interact and to learn from each other. If the purpose of the activity is for me to evaluate that they can use present perfect, I need them to use English, right? But we can give them kind of spaces and be flexible. That's why I always think that in teaching, it's not just this or this. We have like a middle ground over there. And if you ask me, giving them 5 minutes in a class of 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, 5 minutes for them to use Spanish that will help them feel more comfortable, do it. I will give them 10, 15 minutes if they want, no problem, to use Spanish, depending on the context, but I think don't be afraid of using Spanish if you need that. There are some structures, like in grammar, that they're pretty similar to Spanish in some ways, so it flows. But there are other structures that you say, how do I explain this to them? And you see their faces, and then they get like this, and you start sweating, and okay, Spanish parenthesis, this is not working. This is in Spanish. Vean, chicos, esta estructura, así, 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 pa, pa, pa. Ah! And then we get the aha moments. Ah! Yes, now let's get into business. So if you ask me, don't be afraid to use Spanish when you need it. If it's a tool to help in terms of communication, confidence, and for them to see that they can do this, go ahead. It will be an ally. Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
One more question.
No?
No,
Okay,
I think
everything
we're
clear?
ready.
Okay. So, Andrea, thank you so much for your presentation. And before you go, we would like to give you
Thank you so much.
a little gift. Welcome. Yes. Huh? Okay, so we come to the end of the seminar. Thank you so much for attending, and thanks to all the presenters. Now, before we finish, we would like to make a few announcements. With the purpose of improving the organization and development of our seminar, we would like you to take a few minutes to fill in an evaluation form. Projected, yes, there it is. Projected, you can scan the QR code of the Google form. You can also find this QR code posted on different walls in this room. We will give you some minutes to fill it in. Do you need any? Oh. And don't leave yet, because we have a couple more things. Raise your hand if you have already finished. Okay, we still have a couple more people. All right. Okay. So the second thing that I wanted to remind you of is that, well, in order to receive the digital certificate, as we mentioned at the beginning, you must have attended all the plenaries, in addition to having completed the form that you already filled. Then we will send you the digital certificate to the email account you typed when registering for this event. And we want to invite you to enjoy some pastries and refreshments before you go. You don't need a ticket for that one. You just go there and ask for your coffee and pastries. So thank you all very much for joining us. It's been an honor having all of you as our speakers and participants. Have a great afternoon.